Hi everyone, it's Jen with Spirited Saturdays, and this week we're talking about things that we've learned in recovery, messages that we've gotten from others, and how we have integrated them into our recovery. So the first thing that I want to talk about is something that I feel like a lot of people really struggle with. It's a very hard concept to kind of integrate, or it's been for me, which is allowing. I think allowing something to be difficult and just working with that and respecting that and giving that the time it needs is so crucial to recovery. And, not judging it and just allowing it to go through the process that it needs to go through. And, not resisting it and not pushing it away, but just allowing yourself to have the whatever it is, the thought, the urge, and recognizing it, and and then allowing yourself to move on to something else, to work through it, to give it the work and the energy and the time that it deserves and that it needs from you. So if you think of it like that, you're giving it something that it needs by allowing it to first be. Like, if it's there, it's there. Don't pretend that it's not. And then giving it the proper approach, to healing, to passing, to being released, to moving on to something else, to maybe transforming into something positive and something better. But you can't get that thing that's better if you don't first allow yourself to just be present with the thought, and just observe it. I think of it in terms of Reiki, where, if somebody's working on you and they find a spot where there's a blockage, they would never think to judge it or reprimand you for having it, or think, well, my last Reiki patient didn't suffer with this, so what's wrong with you? They would never think that. That's so not an inherent part of that, and it would be just detrimental. So they would instead just simply focus on that part until the resistance eases, until the tension eases, until they feel that it's balanced out in whatever way it needs to be. Um, and I think just like that, if you encounter an area that's just a little more difficult or much more difficult in another area in recovery, that just says, it's like, hi, I warrant your attention right now. And that's, it's just the natural process of giving, of kind of like nurturing that. You want to nurture it, and let it heal and let it transform into what it needs to be. So, don't compare yourself to others. Don't think that, another person isn't having this difficulty, so why should you be? This is your own process, and anytime you encounter something that's a little difficult or a lot difficult, you have every right to just allow that to be and allow that to pass and allow yourself to put in the work and put in the energy, and just own your process that way, and in that way you can own your recovery. Um, and so that's the first thing, that was allowing. The second thing is something that I wanted to just touch upon. This is something my grandfather used to say to me when I was growing up, because I used to write stories, and he'd say to me, like, only write what you like. And I think you can choose to interpret that in a bunch of different ways. And for me, I chose to interpret it as only write what you're proud of, and don't just write because you think that somebody else might like it, or don't write something that you don't like, because you think others will like it, or don't write something that other people will like at the cost of your own truth. And I have carried that with me today, and it's until today, and I continue to. And it's sort of like, I know that if I write something and invest myself in it fully, then it's bound to fully resonate with people who need or want to hear it. And I would ultimately be doing others a disservice if I didn't stay true to myself while I was writing. And I think that you can apply that to eating disorder recovery, or any recovery, just by choosing to be honest in your expression of yourself and not pretending to be anything that you're not just because you think it might please others, and be honest in the process of recovery, and don't hold back because you think that others want to see you in a certain place, and maybe don't pretend to be farther along than you really feel you are. Ask for help and ask for guidance. Be where you are, because if you're where you are, then others can help you get to the next step, and that's don't and I think a lot of people who struggle with eating disorders tend to be, well, I don't know, can't speak for everybody, but I guess for me, I'm very, much a people pleaser, and, and I think that you've got to own yourself and just kind of have dignity in your struggle, because it is, it's something where you can garner so much strength from yourself, and I think it's good to be proud of your struggle, and not worry about how others are perceiving you necessarily, but also not hold back, if you think another could help you, and not worrying, like, if I approach this person to help me, are they going to think that I am weak or this or that? What I'm trying to say is, I guess going back to the quote, just don't try to appear a certain way if it doesn't resonate with how you really feel. Okay, so another thing that I've learned is that the more you focus on the positive, the more the positive grows. So it's like planting a positive seed, and you can plant a positive or a negative one, and that's your choice. And you can nurture either one, and you have the choice of which seed you are going to nurture. And if you nurture the positive one, more positive things will come into your life. And if you feel grateful for those positive things, even more will come in. So shifting your focus is really everything, I have found, for me, especially recently. If you focus on a need for something or a lacking of something, you will likely just get more of that lacking and more of that need, because that's the part that you're focusing on. Whereas if you focus on actually becoming something, becoming it, actually acquiring it, you will build that. So I think focus and perspective is everything. And that said, remain honest with yourself. If you're feeling badly and you think that there's something to be learned from that, or you think that feeling badly is a part of the process, trust that and go with it, and feel the feelings as they come up. The point is not to get rid of the bad feelings. The point is rather to feel them without feeling threatened by them, and to feel them with the intention of authentically releasing them. Another thing that I've learned from many people is that I am not alone. So you should really know that, and trust that you are not alone. You always have people who understand and who are either going through it or have gone through it. So allow just that knowing to relieve some of the burden. As alone as you may feel, whether it be holed up in your room or out among people or even friends sometimes, you are never, ever alone. Sometimes the connection is unspoken. Sometimes someone right next to you understands and you may never know. Sometimes the connection just shows up for you, or sometimes you need to seek it out, but it's always there. And with that, remember that there is always hope. Just going to do a little time check and see if we have, yeah. There's another thing I wanted to just briefly touch on, which is that when I was 14, I started putting piano to my songs that I had already written. Like, I'd already written the vocal, the melody, the vocal part, but I was then starting to integrate piano into, like, I was gonna start presenting my songs as piano and vocal, and really have the piano be an integral part of my arrangements. So one day I was kind of thinking about it and going, is this really worth it? It's going to be a lot of work, and wasn't quite sure. I was like, maybe the songs are just, they'll be fine on their own. Someone else can play the piano or the music or whatever. And I said that to my mom, actually, and she said, but isn't that what you do? And I thought that was interesting. It kind of gave me something I needed and I couldn't find for myself in that moment. But I said, yeah, it's what I do. It's what I want to do. And and that was kind of a real turning point because I needed that from her in that moment. And so what I've done, ever since, I was doing it before, but just not with this new level of really wanting to integrate it. It was more, I was playing around, I was writing little songs on the piano, but I think at 14 I really had this need and this want to write songs with the words and the piano together. So that's what I did, and that's what I kept doing. And I think it also I'm writing a book. Well, I've written a book, and I'm about to record music for it. And even with that, I've had moments of thinking like, well, maybe I don't need to record the music for it. The book, maybe that can stand for itself, and it's all this new work to now undertake, where the book is already pretty almost finished. So it's like, oh, I have to first go into the studio and record this whole other thing. And I've been thinking maybe I should just do the book, and I because maybe it would be simpler. But just because something involves work, and I know this sounds so ridiculously simple, but just because it involves work is never a reason not to do it. And I know in my heart of hearts that this project would not be complete without the music, and anything less than that would make it part of a project, but not the whole project. So I'm following through. And so I guess in terms of recovery, you can interpret this by saying, never shortchange yourself. If you know you're capable of doing something or doing more, or being more of you, go for it. Include it as a part of the whole. Anything less than what you know your heart wants and needs to do would not be whole. For your recovery, you can choose to see it as, if it involves work, it's worth it. If you find some other way, that's the easy way out. If you find recovery unchallenging, for some reason, question that. If you find a shortcut, ask yourself if it's just another eating disorder manifestation. And that's also not to say that recovery can't be enjoyable, too. The process of recovery can be enjoyable, but when you enjoy recovery, it's because you've worked for it. It's because you've thought about it and worked at length toward overcoming obstacles. When you enjoy recovery, you celebrate it. But you can only enjoy what you've worked for, and you can only celebrate what you've worked for and really get to own that. So, enjoyment and freedom is your reward and can also become an integral part of the process itself, just continuing to motivate you and motivate you more and more, because you see this little sample of freedom and you're like, well, I want more of that. So you work toward more of that and you enjoy, even though it's difficult, you can also incorporate joy and happiness and pride and self-love along the way as well. So enjoyment and freedom is your reward and can also become a part of the process itself. And the more freedom you have, the more you acquire as you go. But it starts with honest work, and it starts with really knowing what you're capable of. And maybe sometimes you don't know exactly what you're capable of, and that's why we have treatment teams, and that's why we have friends and support networks and support groups and online help. And so it's always okay to get some kind of to do like a little check-in and ask people, like, I've done this much, but is that really my threshold? Can I do more? Without pushing yourself. Don't mistake what I'm saying as saying that you should be pushing yourself, but just going back to the beginning, allowing yourself to just be completely you and feel the benefits of being completely you. So that's that. Have a great week, everybody, and I will see you next week. Okay, bye.